The inbound Lincoln is down to 10. The Holland still about a 15-minute delay. And then and all the other crossings, literally. City-bound Henry Hudson, Staten Island and Brooklyn-bound Verrazano Bridge, City-bound Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn-bound Manhattan Bridge, and the Brooklyn-bound Williamsburg, as well as the City-bound RFK. So everywhere is a pretty good way to put it. We've got also inside parking rules and regulations in effect. That's today. I'm Karen Stewart on 1010 Wind. Wind due time 10:42. And breaking news this morning. We have some plans for the 4th of July. Well, Mayor Fabio sure does.
I am happy to announce that America's biggest fireworks display is back. Macy's 4th of July fireworks back in New York City.
And you get to go back. There will be public viewing locations. Those with verified vaccinations will be able to gather at spots along the elevated portions of the FDR. Those who are not vaccinated gather in spots in parts of Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. Last year's show was pre-taped. As you might remember, they had pop-up shows, so to speak, to try to avoid crowds. Well, if the candidates attack the front runner at tonight's mayoral debate, he won't be there to defend himself.
So Eric Adams says he'll be at a vigil tonight for Justin Wallace in Queens and not at the CBS 2 studios for the debate. Catherine Garcia is taking part. Wonders why Adams isn't.
Maybe he thought it was going to be a little hot in there. Clearly he's afraid of being on stage.
Andrew Yang, once the front runner in this race, but not anymore, on Adams taking a pass.
I am completely in the dark as to why a major candidate would not show up for a debate on CBS 2 days before early voting starts.
And just 12 days until the primary. Adams is still fending off questions as to exactly where he lives these days. Reports that he spent some of his time at an apartment in New Jersey. But the borough president says, nope, I live in Bed-Stuy, and I have for 20 years. Glenn Shuck, 1010 Wind, here in Midtown.
Eric Adams might not be there tonight, but he is still number one in the latest Pix 11 NewsNation Emerson College poll with 23%. Maya Wiley, Bill de Blasio's former counsel, has jumped to second place, 17%, up from 9% that poll gave her toward the end of last month. As for tonight's debate, you can hear it live starting at 7 o'clock on 1010 Winds and 1010winds.com. And make sure to stick around after, because our Juliet Papa is hosting a post-debate special. A crime scene today outside the Dream Hotel in Chelsea. A man was shot to death just after midnight in front of the Dream downtown on West 16th and 9th Avenue. It seems the two had been arguing when the suspect pulled out a gun. Cops were called and they found the 25-year-old victim, now identified as Byron Morales of Lott Avenue in Brooklyn, with a gunshot wound to the torso. They rushed him to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. The man was not believed to be a hotel guest. The suspect took off in a Jeep. And cops are also searching for some very busy robbers in Manhattan. In a case from the 3rd of this month, the suspect punched a 32-year-old man, stole his AirPods, and ran off. This happened near 42nd and 8th. The same day, the duo attacked a 43-year-old man, also punched him, and stole $60 in cash. If you know anything about these guys, call Crime Stoppers. Why are some criminals out on the streets after getting busted? NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea blames bail reform, and he tells 1010 Winds laws need to change to give judges the discretion to prevent gang members from getting out.
You think it's not true, but unfortunately, it's tragically true. It's what New Yorkers and the men and women of this department are facing every day. And, my takeaway is clearly this wasn't what was intended. with some of the recent laws. But I think it should be, and it must be, the priority for Albany.
Well, Shea tells 1010 Wins he is asking Albany to do something. It was recently reported that a reputed teenage gang member with 3 gun arrests in 4 months had his bail reduced by a Bronx judge, allowing him to get out of jail and allegedly fire a random shot that killed a father of 2. A rally is being held in Queens to support the families forced out of their homes by a massive fire. 500 people are now scattered throughout the city looking for homes after the devastating blaze that burned through their Jackson Heights building in April. The 8 alarmer injured 21 people, including 16 firefighters, and the fire was caused by an overloaded power strip. It spread very quickly because the fire apartment, the door where the fire started in, was not shut. Residents are set to be evicted from hotels on the 20th of this month. That happens to be Father's Day. The Tenants Association will be joined by lawmakers and community activists today as they call for a hotel extension. The TSA is trying to avoid massive jams at airports this summer as we all start traveling again. Here's Cammie McCormick.
The TSA ramps up hiring before summer and has hired more than 3,000 already. It's also increasing overtime and offering incentives similar to signing bonuses. The Washington Post reports the TSA is warning many airports nationwide they could face staffing shortages this summer.
They might have hired 3,000, but the TSA says they need 6,000. The TSA screened 1.98 million people on Sunday. That is a new pandemic air travel record. Well, President Biden is meeting with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson today in Cornwall in the UK, as we've been reporting. Johnson, though, in the middle of a new controversy at home. He's being criticized for flying to the Group of 7 summit instead of taking the train. Environmental activists bombarded Johnson's Twitter feed with suggestions that the Prime Minister should practice what he preaches after he posted a photo of himself climbing off the plane, accompanied by a call to make the world better, fairer, and greener. A train journey to Cornwall takes about 5 hours, the flight about 90 minutes. Well, France's president recently got slapped in the face by a man as he was greeting members of the public. 2 men have now been arrested with weapons and a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf found at a suspect's home.
The Paris prosecutor's office confirming 2 men, both 28 years old, have been in police custody since Tuesday afternoon, though they have not yet been charged with a crime. The first man struck the French president and claims to have acted instinctively and without thinking to express his dissatisfaction. The second man filmed the incident. Police found weapons, a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, and a Russian red flag with a yellow hammer and sickle when they searched his home. Both men are due to appear in court.
Inez de la Catara with that. Pope Francis is refusing to accept the resignation offered by German Cardinal Reinhard Marx over the mishandling of the sex abuse scandal in the church. Francis wrote a letter to Marx in response to the German bombshell announcement last week that the cardinal had offered to resign as Archbishop of Munich. Francis telling Marx in the letter he must continue as Archbishop. Francis saying there needs to be the courage of putting oneself in crisis, of assuming reality regardless of consequences. President Biden's Secretary of State has responded to Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega after issuing sanctions against the country.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the U.S. will, quote, continue to respond after the Treasury sanctioned President Ortega's daughter, the president of Nicaragua's central bank, and others. These are the first Biden administration sanctions against Nicaragua, where the government has moved to essentially eliminate political opposition ahead of November's election. Ortega, who's been in power since 2007 and previously from 1979 to 1990, was called a dictator Tuesday by the top U.S. diplomat for Latin America.
And that was Connor Finnegan reporting. Here at home, if you're thinking about traveling to the beautiful coast of Maine this summer, some good news. A mystery there has been solved.
A gross black mass that bumped people at normally pristine beaches on the southern coast of Maine turned out to be millions of dead insects. One marine biologist says he's never seen anything like it in his 35 years on the job. He's not sure what kind of bugs they were or where they came from.
And that is Jim Kursula reporting. And up next at 10:51, Karen Stewart reporting traffic and transit.
Well, I've been taking a broad look here at what things look like in the Bronx, thanks to Tinto and his jam cam. And here's the story that I'm going with. We've got an outbound GW Bridgeway from the Cross Bronx West that's really close to an hour, like almost there. From the Harlem River Drive, it's 25 at least. Same thing with the northbound.